My heart raced as I spotted Caleb walking into the cafe. His familiar smile lit up the room, but it ignited memories of betrayal instead of love. How could he still look so charming after everything? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The plan I had crafted felt like a weight in my stomach, but I knew I had to go through with it. This was my chance to expose him for what he truly was. The air around me felt thick with tension. I glanced around the cafe, observing the other customers sipping their drinks, chatting and laughing. Did they know what was about to unfold? Did they sense the storm brewing within me? My fingers tapped nervously on the table, each beat echoing my determination. I had spent months dealing with the pain he caused, and now it was time to confront him. As our eyes met across the room, a rush of emotions flooded through me. Anger, sadness, and, surprisingly, a flicker of hope. I could feel my pain transforming into something stronger, something that fueled my resolve. Caleb had taken so much from me, and I was ready to take back my power. The warmth of the cafe contrasted sharply with the coldness in my heart, reminding me of all the promises he broke. How could he have betrayed me so easily? "Hey, Alara!" Caleb called out, his voice smooth and inviting. He approached my table with that same smile, the one that used to make my heart flutter. But now, it only made me feel sick. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" "Yeah, it has," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "How have you been?" "Busy with work? You know how it is," he said, shrugging nonchalantly. "And you? Still painting?" "Still painting," I echoed, my voice steady, but my mind raced. I wanted to scream at him, to throw my drink in his face, but I held back. I had to stay composed. "Actually, I've been working on a new piece. You might be interested to see it." "Oh, I'd love to," he said, leaning closer. The scent of his cologne filled my senses, and for a moment, I almost forgot why I was there. Almost. "Maybe we can catch up sometime," he suggested, his eyes sparkling with that familiar charm. I wanted to roll my eyes. Did he really think he could charm his way back into my life? "Sure," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'll let you know." I felt a surge of satisfaction, knowing that I was playing my part well. Everything was falling into place. The cafe buzzed around us, but inside, I was a whirlwind of emotions. I could already see the scene unfolding in my mind, the moment I would reveal his betrayal. Would he try to defend himself? Would he finally show remorse? Or would he continue to play the victim? As I sipped my coffee, I mentally prepared myself for what was to come. I thought about our friends who would soon join us. They had no idea what I had planned, and that thought sent a thrill through me. How would they react when they learned the truth? Would their faces reflect shock, or would they side with him? I took another deep breath, feeling the weight of my thoughts. The barista called out a name, snapping me back to reality. Outside, the world continued on, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to hit. I stared into my cup, the steam curling up like whispers of my inner turmoil. "Are you okay, Alara?" Caleb's voice broke through my thoughts again. "You seem a bit distant." I forced a laugh, shaking my head. "Just thinking about old times, I guess." He smiled again, but I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Good. I wanted him to feel a bit of the fear I had lived with since the day I found out about his infidelity. "Old times, huh?" he said, his voice softening. "We had some good memories, didn't we?" "Yeah, we did," I replied, my heart hardening. But sometimes memories are just that. Memories. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. I could see the realization dawning on him, and I knew this was only the beginning. The cafe, the laughter, the warmth, it all felt like a facade, and I was ready to tear it down. As I sat in my dimly lit apartment, I couldn't shake the memories of happier times with Caleb. The laughter we shared echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. I remember the way his eyes sparkled when he talked about his dreams, how he used to wrap his arms around me, making me feel safe. But now, those memories felt like daggers, sharp and painful. I was no longer the girl who basked in his affection. I was a woman ready to seek justice. I glanced at the clock. It was almost time for the dinner party I had planned. I had invited our mutual friends, but this was no ordinary gathering. I wanted them to see Caleb for who he truly was. I wanted them to know the truth about his betrayal. As I set the table, I imagined their faces when I revealed everything. Would they be shocked? Would they turn on him? The thought sent a thrill through me. I practiced my words in front of the mirror. Caleb, it's time they know about the lies. The more I said it, the more confident I felt. When the doorbell rang, my heart raced. I opened the door to find Sarah and Mike grinning from ear to ear. "Ilara! We brought wine!" Sarah exclaimed, holding up 2 bottles like trophies. "Perfect timing! Come in!" I forced a smile, my stomach churning with the weight of my secret. As they entered, I couldn't help but feel the tension build inside me. As the guests arrived one by one, laughter filled the room. I played the part of the gracious host, but inside I was a volcano ready to erupt. I watched Caleb as he mingled, completely unaware of my intentions. The way he laughed with our friends made my blood boil. How could he act so normal after what he had done? "Hey, Ilara, how are you doing?" Mike asked, pouring himself a glass of wine. "I'm good, just excited for tonight," I replied, trying to sound casual. "You all know we've had our ups and downs, right? But I think it's time to clear the air." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, tilting her head slightly. "Oh, just some misunderstandings," I said, a hint of a smile creeping onto my face. "I'll explain everything soon." "Now you've got us curious," Mike chuckled, raising his glass. "To friendship." "To friendship," I echoed, clinking my glass against his. But inside, I felt a storm brewing. As the night wore on, I could feel my heart pounding. It was almost time. I glanced at Caleb. He was telling a story, completely unaware of what was coming. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him understand the pain he had caused. But I held back, waiting for the right moment. Finally, as the last dish was served, I stood up, my hands trembling slightly. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" The chatter faded, and all eyes turned to me. "What's going on, Ilara?" Caleb asked, a hint of concern in his voice. I took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation. "I invited you all here tonight to talk about something important." My voice was steady, but my heart raced. "What is it?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowing. I looked around the room, my friends' faces filled with curiosity. "It's about Caleb." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. "And the lies he's told." Gasps filled the room, and Caleb's face turned pale. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice a mix of confusion and fear. I leaned in, feeling the power of the moment. "Caleb cheated on me, with someone you all know." I watched as shock washed over their faces, disbelief replacing the laughter that had filled the room just moments before. "Is this true?" Mike asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Caleb opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The silence was deafening. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction as the truth hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. I had done it. I had exposed him. The tension was electric, and for the first time in a long while I felt like I was in control. But as I looked at the faces of my friends, faces I once trusted, I couldn't help but wonder if this was really what I wanted. The dinner was going well. Laughter filled the room as our friends shared stories and jokes, but I felt like I was in a different world. The sounds around me faded, and my heart raced with anticipation. I watched Caleb as he laughed, completely unaware of what was about to happen. I had spent too long planning this moment, and I was ready to make my move. "Can you believe it's been a year since we all got together like this?" Lily, one of our friends, said as she poured more wine into her glass. "Time flies," Caleb replied, his eyes sparkling. I wanted to scream. How could he sit there, so carefree, when he had shattered my world? I glanced around the table, seeing familiar faces. Everyone looked happy, but I knew their joy was built on a lie. I took a deep breath and let my gaze settle on Caleb. The moment was close, and I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down on me. "Before we dive into dessert, I have something to share," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. The room quieted, and all eyes turned to me. I could see the curiosity on their faces, mixed with a hint of concern. "Is everything okay, Alara?" Mark asked, his brow furrowing slightly. "Yes, Mark. Everything is fine," I replied, forcing a smile. "I just think it's time to talk about some things that have been hidden." Caleb's eyes widened, and I could see the panic start to set in. "Alara, what do you mean?" he said, his voice a little shaky. I took a moment, letting the silence stretch, savoring the tension in the air. "I think it's time everyone knew the truth about Caleb." The room held its breath, and I could feel every heartbeat around the table. Caleb and I were together for a long time, but not too long ago he decided to cheat on me, I said, my voice rising slightly as I pushed through the words. "With someone very close to us." Gasps filled the air, and disbelief washed over my friends' faces. "What? No, that can't be true!" Lily exclaimed, shaking her head. "Unfortunately, it is," I said, glancing at Caleb, who was now shifting uncomfortably in his seat. His face was pale, and I could see the disbelief morphing into desperation. "Who? Who did he cheat with?" Mark demanded, his tone serious. I locked eyes with Caleb, enjoying the way his confident facade was crumbling. "Jessica," I said, letting the name hang in the air like a heavy weight. "No way," Lily whispered, looking between us. "Jess, she would never do that." "But she did," I said, my voice firm. "I found out through a mutual friend. They thought I wouldn't find out, but I did." Caleb finally spoke, but his voice was barely a whisper. "Alara, please. This isn't the time." "Oh, but it is!" I shot back, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and satisfaction. "You had your chance to be honest, and you threw it away. Now, everyone deserves to know the truth." The silence in the room was deafening. I could see the shock spreading among our friends. Their faces reflected confusion, betrayal, and a mix of emotions that mirrored my own. "Caleb, how could you?" Mark finally asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. I made a mistake," Caleb stammered, looking down at the table. "I never wanted to hurt Alara." "Well, you did," I said, feeling a twisted sense of pride as I watched him squirm. "And now everyone knows. No more lies." I could see the hurt on my friends' faces as they processed the information. The laughter and joy of the evening had vanished, replaced by an uncomfortable tension that filled the room. "Caleb, I can't believe you would do this," Lily said, shaking her head. "I thought you were better than that." "I thought so too," I whispered to myself, feeling the weight of my own heartache. As I watched Caleb's face, I felt a surge of satisfaction mixed with sadness. The truth was out, but the victory felt hollow. I had exposed him, but at what cost? I glanced around the table, seeing the disappointment in my friend's eyes, and suddenly I questioned if this was what I truly wanted. But it was too late now. The room remained silent, and the reality of our shattered friendship hung heavy in the air. As the evening came to a close, I sat at the table, staring at the remnants of dinner. The room buzzed with nervous chatter, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. I had done it. I had exposed Caleb. but the weight of my actions pressed down on me like a heavy blanket. Did I really find justice, or was it something else? "Can you believe what just happened?" Sarah, one of our close friends, said, her voice a mix of disbelief and concern. "I never thought Caleb would do something like that." I forced a smile, trying to blend in with the group. "Neither did I replied, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. The truth was, I had known all along. I had just wanted everyone else to see it too. As friends drifted away, the atmosphere shifted from lively to somber. The laughter faded, and silence enveloped me. I glanced around the table, taking in the shocked faces of people I once cared for deeply. Their expressions mirrored my own turmoil. Was this truly what I wanted? Caleb stood a few feet away, his face pale. He looked lost, like a ship without a compass. I could see the desperation in his eyes. "Alara," he called softly, stepping toward me. "Can we talk?" I nodded, my heart racing. As we stepped outside the cafe, the cool night air hit my face, grounding me. I leaned against the wall, trying to collect my thoughts. "You lied to me, Caleb," I said, my voice steady but my insides twisted. "You broke the trust we built." "I know," he replied, running a hand through his hair. "I messed up. But that doesn't mean I don't care about you. I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why did you?" I shot back, anger bubbling to the surface. "You had everything, and you threw it away for a moment of weakness." He looked down, shame etching deeper lines on his face. "I thought I could fix it. I thought you would never find out." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "And now? What do you think will happen now that everyone knows?" "I don't know," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't stand the thought of losing you for good. You meant everything to me." Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I held them back. "You had your chance, Caleb. You had my heart, and you broke it." He stepped closer, desperation evident in his eyes. "I wish I could turn back time, Alara. I'd do anything to make this right." I shook my head, feeling the weight of my decision settle heavily on my shoulders. "Sometimes you can't fix what's already broken. You can't erase the hurt you caused." The silence stretched between us, filled with unsaid words and unhealed wounds. I saw the pain reflected in his eyes, and for a moment I wondered if we were both just as broken. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I just want a chance to explain, to show you that I can be better," he said, his voice filled with urgency. I took a step back, needing space. "You had your chance to show me when it mattered. Now, it feels like too little, too late." He reached out, but I pulled away. "Alara, please. I don't want to lose you." I felt a mix of sadness and relief at his words. "You already lost me when you chose to betray my trust. I can't just forget that." As I turned to leave, I felt liberated yet hollow. The cafe's warm light faded behind me, leaving only the chill of the night. I questioned whether this kind of vengeance truly brought closure. Did I feel better for exposing him, or had I just opened a wound that would take longer to heal? Walking away from the cafe, I looked up at the stars twinkling above. They seemed so far away, much like the love I once felt for Caleb. I wondered if I could ever find peace in my heart again. After the chaos of that night, I found myself alone in my apartment, surrounded by shadows that felt heavier than usual. The silence was deafening, and as I sat on my couch, I tried to make sense of everything. My heart still raced from the adrenaline of exposing Caleb, but now that thrill felt like a distant echo. I hugged my knees to my chest, staring at the blank wall in front of me, realizing that the rush of revenge did not fill the emptiness inside me. Was this worth it? I whispered to myself, the question hanging in the air like a ghost. I thought about the betrayal, the lies, and the moments we shared. I closed my eyes, and memories of Caleb flooded my mind. I remembered the laughter, the warmth of his embrace, and the dreams we had built together. Those memories, once so vibrant, now felt like shards of glass cutting into my heart. Why did it have to end like this? I murmured, feeling the sting of tears threatening to spill over. I had turned love into a weapon, and now I was left with the aftermath of destruction. A part of me wanted to cling to my anger to keep it alive, but another part whispered that I needed to let go. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm within me. As I sat there, I began to empathize with Caleb. He was not just a villain in my story. He was a person who had his own struggles. He must be hurting too, I thought, and the realization hit me like a wave. Maybe he was lost, just like I was. It felt strange to think that way, but I knew I had to find a path to healing, not just for him, but for myself. I stood up and walked to my desk, where a journal lay waiting. It had been a long time since I had written anything. With trembling hands, I opened it and began to write. "Dear Journal," I wrote, "I feel so confused. I thought revenge would make me feel better, but it hasn't. I feel more alone than ever." As I poured my feelings onto the pages, I could feel the weight slowly lifting. The act of writing became a release. I wrote about my anger, my pain, but also about the love I once felt. I wanted to understand what had happened between Caleb and me, to unravel the threads of our relationship. "I miss the good times," I wrote, "but I know I can't hold on to them if they only bring me pain now." After a while, I paused and read what I had written. It was raw and honest, filled with emotions I had kept bottled up for too long. "I need to forgive," I said aloud, feeling the truth of those words settle in my heart. Forgiveness did not mean I would forget what had happened, but it would free me from the chains of my bitterness. "What do I want for myself?" I asked the empty room. I closed my eyes again, envisioning a future where I was not defined by Caleb or the betrayal. I wanted peace, a chance to rediscover who I was outside of that relationship. I wanted to heal. As the night wore on, I continued to write, my thoughts flowing freely. I realized I needed to let go of the anger that had consumed me for months. It was time to take charge of my own happiness. "I will not let this define my life," I penned, feeling a flicker of hope ignite inside me. The darkness outside began to lift, and the first light of dawn crept through the window. I took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill my lungs. I had a long journey ahead, but I was ready to embrace it. I was ready to find myself again. As I closed my journal, I felt a new sense of purpose. "Today, I begin my journey to forgiveness," I promised myself. I knew it would not be easy, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. I was determined to heal, to move forward, and to rediscover the light within me. As I sat on my couch, surrounded by the remnants of my past, I realized it was time to let go. The memories of Caleb and the pain he caused felt like weights on my shoulders. But deep down, I knew I had to embrace a new beginning. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, "It's time for change." I decided to channel my energy into self-care. I started small, making a list of things that brought me joy. I wrote down morning coffee, long walks in the park, and painting. Each item reminded me that happiness was still within my reach. I picked up a brush and set to work on a canvas that had been gathering dust in the corner. As colors swirled together, I felt a lightness return to my heart. "Wow, Alara, that's beautiful," my friend Mia said as she peeked over my shoulder one evening. I smiled, feeling a blush creep up my cheeks. "Thanks, I'm just trying to find myself again." "Art can be so healing," she replied, her eyes bright with encouragement. "You've always had a gift. Remember when we painted that mural for the community center?" I chuckled, recalling the messy yet joyful day we spent splattering paint everywhere. How could I forget? We got paint on everything, including ourselves. Mia laughed, her voice lightening the mood. And it was worth it. You should do more of this. It's good for the soul. As the days passed, I reconnected with friends who had supported me through my toughest times. I met Sarah for coffee one afternoon, and she greeted me with open arms. "Alara, you look different," she said, her gaze warm and inviting. "Different how?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Like you're finally starting to shine again," she replied. "I'm so proud of you." Her words filled me with warmth. I'm trying to move forward. It feels good to let go of the anger. "I can see that," Sarah said, her expression softening. "You deserve to be happy, and I'm here for you every step of the way." I spent more time with friends like Sarah and Mia, laughing and sharing stories. We went on hikes, visited art galleries, and even had movie nights filled with popcorn and cheesy rom-coms. Each moment reminded me of the beauty of friendship, something I had neglected for too long. One evening, as I walked through the park with Mia, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. "Isn't this peaceful?" I said, taking in the beauty around us. "Absolutely," she replied. "It's moments like these that remind us life goes on." I nodded, feeling a sense of calm wash over me. I think I'm ready to accept the scars of my past. They're part of my story, after all. Mia looked at me thoughtfully. "You know, it's okay to feel sad about what happened with Caleb, but don't let it define you. You are so much more than that." Her words struck a chord deep within me. I had spent too long letting Caleb's betrayal shape my identity. I was Alara, a woman with dreams, passions, and a heart that still had the capacity to love. As I stepped outside one morning, the fresh air kissed my face. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. It felt like a sign. A new chapter was waiting for me. "Today is a new day," I said aloud, a smile spreading across my face. I felt lighter, ready to embrace whatever came next. With each step forward, I felt a renewed sense of hope and strength. I was ready to write my own story, one filled with joy, laughter, and the promise of brighter tomorrows. The past would always be a part of me, but I was no longer bound by it. I was free, and I was ready to live. Share this story if you believe that healing and self-discovery can lead to a brighter future. Leave a comment about a time when you found strength in friendship or creativity, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.